We have a lot of work that's happening in downtown Main Street in Fitchburg here over, 2024, 2025, 2026, 2027. And it's just, there's going to be a lot of collaboration and communication that's going to need to happen here. And, with so many projects, we felt like it was really important that we all get together and inform everyone together and then take input or questions on all the work, the vast amount of work that has been happening. Thanks to Weston and Sampson for putting together this great presentation that you're about to see and we're about to discuss to go along, with great graphics and for doing a lot of this. Weston and Sampson have been doing the majority of the work. That's the design work that's been going on when it comes to a lot of these infrastructure, especially when it comes to the water and sewer separation projects. So thank you to Community Development for helping to organize this event with everyone here, DPW, police, and everyone that's here that has a part in all the amazing millions of dollars, $100 million of infrastructure that's happening in the downtown. So I don't know who's kicking it off first, but that's what's happening here. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. So everybody, Mayor Squalia. I am Liz Murphy. I'm the Executive Director of Community Development and Planning. We want to thank everybody for being here. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce the rest of the team here. So we have Nick Erickson, our DPW Commissioner, and Sergeant Boudreau, our Police Traffic Sergeant. Thank you. Samuel Kenny and Patrick Cotton. Correct? Yes, I got them all. Yay! Thank you. And with that, I'm gonna kick it off to you guys.
So thanks, Liz. Thanks, Mayor. So if you don't mind, if you want to go to the next slide, Sam. So thanks for attending, everyone. It's glad to be here. Glad to have you here. Talk about all these projects. So this slide focuses on the list of projects that are going to start this year and occur over the next couple of years in the downtown area. So for the water division, we've got the Main Street Water Main project. Someone's got a train in the room. So on the water side, we're looking at Main Street water main improvements, improvements to the water main in the Morin Square area, and then water main improvements in the Water Street area that are being done by Mass DOT as part of their Water Street Bridge replacement projects. Get into that one a little bit later. We're also looking at a lot of projects on the sewer and drain side. So we've got combined sewer separation projects happening throughout the downtown. You might have seen some of that work starting with the CSO 10 project on the northwestern end of Main Street, and we're moving in an eastward direction with the CSO 34, 45, and 83 combined sewer separation projects. These projects are mandated by the consent decree that the city's under with the US EPA to separate out all these combined sewers. We're also looking at doing sewer and drain work in the Morin Square area as part of the Morin Square renovation project. It's a project to redo that intersection and traffic signals and lighting, et cetera. Unitil's wrapped up some important projects in the downtown area recently. They've abandoned their large gas main that ran right down the center of Main Street, and they'll be doing some minor service connection upgrades as part of the work that's ongoing this year, next year. They're done all their big projects in the area, which is good. That gives us the room to get in there and do our water sewer upgrades. Then we've got Mass DOT working on 3 really important projects for the city. So they're replacing both Water Street bridges, both the one over Boulder Drive and the one over the Nashua River. They're also working on the River Street Bridge right now. That project is under construction. You probably all noticed the detour that we have set up for the westbound travel direction. And then they're also going to be building the Rail Trail Bridge and completing the rail trail connection to the First and Railroad Street area down in the patch behind the old St. Bernard Church. That'll connect that area to the Intermodal Center with a series of bridges over the railroad tracks and the river. So that's a really cool and exciting project, too, to continue that rail trail down into the city.
With the longest pedestrian bridge in Massachusetts, soon to come.
So we'll have a record to Fitchburg's name, too. Then as part of all this work, obviously, we're doing some pretty evasive work in the Main Street area. So at the end of it all, we'll be looking to pave the roadway, do the sidewalks, and do all the surface level improvements that are so badly needed. So that's a real high-level summary of what we've got going on. We'll talk about all these in a little bit more detail as we get through the presentation. So up on the screen now, you see a map. This is a zoomed-out map that shows each of these projects that I just mentioned and geographically where they're located. So the CSO 10 project is that orangey yellow color. That's the project that's just about done construction-wise. There'll be a little bit of paving work that happens this construction season, and then there'll be some ongoing post-construction monitoring in that area. The green area is what the contractor called GVC is working on right now. GVC is with us here right now. That's another combined sewer separation project, and that encompasses the area essentially from Mechanic Street moving east to Elm Street, Academy Street, that whole general area that you see there in green. And then upcoming this summer in July, we're going to be going out to bid with the next phase of our combined sewer separation work in the downtown area. That's the CSO 45 and 83 area shown in red on the screen that you see in front of you. So that'll complete the majority of the downtown combined sewer separation work. So then zooming in a little bit on the next slide, you see the Main Street area in particular. So this is the area that we're focusing on today for discussion. And it's going to involve the Main Street water main replacement project, and also it's going to involve little pieces of each of the combined sewer separation projects. So you see the CSO 10 project in the top left corner of the screen. You see another portion of Main Street that's going to be taken care of with the work that GVC is doing this year, next year. And then you see that red area that overlaps with the Main Street area. That's the next and final phase of the combined sewer separation work that'll be going out to bid in July. So that's the projects in a nutshell. We've also got the Mass DOT bridge replacement projects, which are on Water Street, right up against the project area. On River Street, again, right up against the project area. They just finished the Circle Street Bridge for us, which is huge. That gives us some flexibility with traffic detours. And one of the big things that's going to work in our favor is the fact that we converted Main Street and Boulder Drive to two-way traffic. That enables us to have a lot of flexibility with rerouting traffic to accomplish these projects. So that was one of the main goals of that project, and we're about to see how well it works with the upcoming construction work. So next slide, Sam. So with all these projects, we recognize that coordination is key, and Weston and Sampson is going to be working to provide weekly email updates for each of these projects, and those updates will go to city staff and people that sign up to receive that communication. So our weekly email updates will encompass the work areas, descriptions of the work that'll take place, proposed detours, anticipated work schedule, and then we'll be posting a work area map to social media so people see it on Facebook and whatnot. We'll be handing out notices door to door throughout the downtown area and all the project areas that'll be impacted. Those notices will look a lot like what you see up on the screen to the right. That's what we've been using as a template since we started with a lot of this combined sewer separation work several years ago with the CSO 10 project. So right now we've got an email set up. Next slide. Okay. So we've got an email set up for the project and a phone number that people can use to ask questions, voice concerns, report issues during construction. So that email is up on the screen here along with the phone number. People can feel free to call that phone number, talk to someone at Weston & Sampson about the project, address concerns, anything you need related to the project and what's going on out there. Those are two sources of communication that you can take advantage of. So I'd highly recommend any businesses or residents that are in this room, city councilors, et cetera, snap a picture of this so that you have something to refer back to in another month or two when we get started with construction. What we're also going to be doing is putting a link on our city webpage that'll take you to a form that you can fill out to opt into these weekly communications. We're working on setting that up right now, so check the city's webpage for that. That should be available right on the main landing page once it's up and live. So we can follow up with the attendees here to let people know when that is live if you prefer to sign up that way. Or again, you can use that email and that phone number that's listed up there on the screen. So that's about it for my spiel. Right now I'm going to pass it over to Sergeant Boudreau of FPD to go over some of the traffic control management that we're looking at for these projects and what you can expect to see out there as far as detail officers and whatnot.
Thanks, Commissioner. So obviously, a lot of projects in a close proximity area. The good news is Weston and Sampson, Polito Construction, we've been in Unitil, we've worked with for quite a few years now. Work very well together. They know our process. GVC, we've been working all winter with them, same thing, very easy to work with. It's going to need a lot of coordination between all of these construction companies and the city and the police traffic unit. I think we did a much better job last year than we have in the past with getting notices out. We're going to continue doing that. The bad news is it's a lot of construction in a small area, and unfortunately, the construction that these two companies are doing is large scale. They're not putting in a small gas line like Unitil does, so it's going to be a lot of detours. They need to take up the whole road in a lot of areas. We're going to try to minimize that as well as we can so that we're not sending people way out of their way. But it's going to be congested, and people are going to have to realize there's going to be some backups, and if you don't need to come through that area, try not to. With that being said, we'll have detail officers out there. If a business owner or anyone that lives in that area, if you have an immediate problem, you can't get out of your driveway, go out and talk to the detail officers before we start calling other places, because they're on scene. They're going to help you to the best of their ability. And if you need to get in or out of your property, unless you've been notified the day before that you're not going to be able to, we should be able to get you in or out. I say that with this caveat that if an emergency arises, while they're digging, they hit something, you might be stuck in your driveway if something like that happens. So if you know construction's in your area coming up the next day, you're better off trying to get your vehicle out of there so that you have access in case something happens. These guys are working with big machinery, and there's a lot of stuff in the ground that's old, so we never know what's going to happen. But I just want to stress enough. Search out the detail officer, or Weston and Sampson will have a resident engineer on site. You can go talk to them if you can't find the detail officer, or one of the foremen or workers. They all know that we're trying to make it as easy as we can for everybody around these projects. If for some reason you can't find all that, obviously we just put a number up there. You can always call the police department, ask for the officer in charge. There's always a supervisor sitting at that desk 24/7. They'll get someone to go out and check out whatever problem you're talking about. So if anybody has any questions, obviously you can ask them.
Thanks, Sergeant. So the first project that we're going to talk about in a little more detail is the upcoming Main Street water main work. Going to try to talk a lot in photos on these next few slides to give people an idea of, what are we doing, what are our goals of this project, and what are you likely to see out your window over the next year and a half as this project develops. So, right off, what is the goal of this? The city has a lot of old and aging infrastructure. The photos you're seeing on screen are sections of pipe that was removed from the low water service system this fall. A lot of this stuff dates back to the 1910s, the 1920s. It's run its course. It's at its useful life. So kind of developing into a few more bullets, this will allow us to improve fire flow, especially on that low service system. A lot of those mains are heavily tuberculated, as you saw on the last slide. You're going to see a minor increase to water quality by combating those sections of tuberculation. It increases the city's overall ability to maintain this infrastructure. You have a very old city. A lot of this section, the utilities have developed over time on kind of a, where does it fit today mentality. That makes maintenance really difficult when you have unforeseen issues that are popping up. So this allows us to, relay some of this infrastructure and potentially address some of those deficiencies that have developed over the last few decades. It addresses aging infrastructure, and it allows us to do it in a planned versus an unplanned manner. This is going to be a disruptive project. We're aware of that, but we can at least put our heads together and figure out how to do it in a telegraphed and organized way versus responding to these failures as they occur, wherever they occur and whenever that may happen. So it allows us to be a lot more, planned out, notify people in advance, and try to limit these disruptions as much as practicable here. And then kind of as Nick alluded to, it'll also let us perform some surface level improvements and get Main Street paved up, get the sidewalks relayed, make everything look nice at the end of the day when this construction program has wrapped. This slide shows some elements that are going to be associated with the temporary water system. This is the first thing we're showing because it's the first thing that you folks are going to see out your window. This project involves replacement of critical water main infrastructure that's connecting the downtown area. We can't remove water service. So effectively, we're going to be constructing an entire temporary water system above grade, through these pipes and exterior building connections to connect your properties to this system, replace the system that's there, and then ultimately transfer you back onto the permanent infrastructure. So without getting into a lot of the details of temporary water construction, just be aware that we have to set the system up. We have to test these pipes, disinfect them. We need to transfer your services over to these mains, do all of the construction work, test those mains, and then transfer you back. We're going to be touching every single service a minimum of 2 times to perform that work. So if you're asking, why are we here again? Why are we outside in the same spot we were previously? That's why. It's going to feel like you're seeing some of the same things again. We understand these disruptions affect your livelihoods, your businesses, yourself. We're going to do as much notification as possible. 48 hours minimum, likely way more than that. We have dedicated field staff who are going to be out here. They're going to be looking ahead. They'll be talking with you of, hey, we think we're coming up on your area in the next week or so. Be prepared for a shut-off notice. When you do get that, these transfers, we're going to tell you to be prepared to be without water for probably 4 to 8 hours. The likely outcome is that it's going to be way less than that, but we don't want to overpromise. It's old infrastructure. Things happen that prevent these from being quick. So in terms of what are you going to see out your window, the next couple slides just have a couple of those photos. You're going to see excavators with, pipe. There's going to be trenches, trench boxes. You see the corner of a 10-wheel dump off the photo there as well. We're going to be resetting some of the hydrants and valves. We'll be cutting into the sidewalk, but the expectation is that the sidewalks will generally always be open, even if the streets and passage on the roadways themselves are impaired. Just a few more photos of what you can expect to see for, excavation, trench work, and some of the dump trucks that will be in the area moving material off-site so that it's not being stockpiled right in front of your doorways and on the sidewalks. Again, just a few more photos of the equipment that you're likely to see, including kind of final trench restoration here at the end. There will be sections and times when portions of the trench are going to be unpaved. There will be, hard-packed gravel, kind of like you see in this photo. We're going to be working with the contractors, to manage dust control, because we understand, especially if there's a dry spell and it's been dry for a few days, that we don't want that dust blowing through the downtown. So before I kind of pass the baton over to Pat here, I think it's just, we understand this is going to be disruptive. There's a lot of folks in this room on the city side, on our side, on PD's side, who are going to work really hard to manage that disruption as much as practicable, but do want to thank everybody in advance, for your cooperation and patience.
Thanks, Sam. Now I'd like to get into the CSS Combined Source Separation projects, a little discussion about these upcoming projects as well. Again, we wanted to show a lot of photos of the condition of the infrastructure as it is. That's a photo of a drain essentially collapsing, which is reducing capacity in the drainage system, which is likely causing flooding, which will be mitigated as part of this project, these projects. The infrastructure is aging. A lot of it is 100 plus years old. The goal, all of this work is mandated by Mass DEP and the US EPA and the DOJ to be completed by 2030. So it's on the fast track to being done. We're doing everything that we can to get there and meet that goal, and that is the target right now, and we're anticipating to meet it. Next slide, please. So for the ultimate project goals, there will be significant improved water quality by eliminating of the 8 remaining CSOs that discharge wastewater to the Nashua River, unfortunately. It's the way things were done way back a while ago, and the city's on path to eliminate all those, as I had stated, by 2030. which is great progress and is being recognized by Mass DEP and US EPA. I had mentioned the mitigation of the flooding downtown. All of the drainage within the CSO separation areas will be designed to handle the 2070 theoretical design storm, which increases storage capacity, mitigates flooding, and a lot of issues that have been happening localized in some of the downtown areas, unfortunately. There will be structural improvements as well. Every single pipe within the downtown area has been inspected, televised. The manholes have been physically inspected. They will all be repaired and upgraded as necessary to prevent any structural failures moving forward. Again, this significantly reduces operation and maintenance required by DPW staff so they can focus on areas in other parts of the city, along with on-call contractors as necessary, and reduce. It's proactive as well as far as emergency response goes, so there's less situations that arise on this regarding the infrastructure in the downtown area. Also reducing II as well. When you're putting in new sewer pipes and lining the old pipes and manholes, it reduces extraneous flow that is unnecessarily treated at the wastewater treatment facility. That is ultimately the cost is passed on to the ratepayers, which is an additional improvement, and reduces sewer system overflows as well. Green infrastructure has been incorporated into this project through the MVP program. So you'll see some sites that will pop up in the downtown area that will look nice, improve water quality, and infiltrate rainwater into the ground as well. And ultimately, at the end of the project, of the separation projects, you'll see the roadway improvements. Ultimately, it'll be a brand new street, sidewalks, everything will look great. It's just going to take some time and patience to get there, but we're doing everything that we possibly can to make sure that everybody's concerns are addressed along the way.
That'll be the best part.
Yeah, for sure, Mayor, for sure.
Could you explain the II so that everyone knows what that is?
Yeah.
II.
Absolutely. Yeah, my apologies, Mary Jo. So II is inflow and infiltration, so it's extraneous water that gets into the sewer system over years. Infiltration is groundwater that leaks in through cracks in manholes, cracks in pipes. It's a slow, steady leak, whereas inflow is, for instance, in a combined sewer, when sewers used to be designed, these to be designed with overcapacity, but the catch basins on the street that connect drainage were designed to flow right into the sewer, and then over time, the sewers did not have enough capacity to handle the flow, in which CSO regulators had to be created in order to provide relief points, which we are separating. So at the end of this project, in addition to the II removal, there will be one sewer and one drain, no more pipe conveying just water and sewer together. These are just some photos of the construction, similar to what Sam shared regarding the waterwork, for new sewer and drain installation, some paving work as well. Next slide. This is the process called cured in place pipelining or sewer lining. So this is when a pipe is not in extreme distress situation where it's partially collapsed, it can be lined without having to dig up the road, and it's much cheaper and less invasive, as you can see. The process typically takes about 4 hours, 4 to 8 hours. The pipe is lined. It's essentially an inverted line, and it goes in like an inverted sock, and then it's heated with steam, cured, and then a mechanical robot goes in and opens up all of the service connections to people's homes, so that essentially it's a brand new pipe without having to dig a hole. These are some pictures from the Rotary at River Street and Main Street during the major construction during the CSO 10 project constructed by Polito, just showing this is a major 60-inch drain going in on Main Street. That section of road happened to be had to be shut down at that point, and a major detour was required. Again, if as these situations arrive, arise. Much notice will be provided to everyone, so it'll be out on the social media, it'll be everywhere, so that everyone knows exactly what's going on regarding major detours. But as you can see in these photos, this is major construction, going back to what Sergeant Boudreau talked to as well. Next slide, please. Now at the end, so this is Putnam Street, for example, just to show some of the new sidewalks that have already been installed. There is still work to be done on Putnam. It hasn't been final paved yet, but it will be following the separation projects. Here's another photo of the final pavement replacement. It's actually right up the street, so this is coming down Main Street onto Boulder. As you can see, Boulder has been paved and striped, brand new, sidewalks as well. This is what you can be expected to see in the downtown area following the completion of the projects by 2030. We also wanted to share a general overall map with a general timeline of when each area will be paved. It's all not going to be paved at once. It's going to be paved as the construction phases are completed. It pretty much speaks for itself as far as the timeline, but it goes in order with the project. So as the separation projects are completed, following those projects, the roads will be paved, sidewalk issues will be addressed, new sidewalks will be installed where necessary. And at the end, again, you'll see what was on the last slide on the top, on the right picture on Boulder Drive. So I'd like to thank everyone for their time, their patience, cooperation. We're up here to answer any questions that you have. Really appreciate everyone coming out. And yeah, I'd like to open it up to this point to Q&A. If anyone has anything else to say. Yeah.
The 60-inch catch basin work that we had to do at the roundabout
Yes.
over on the west side of Main Street. We don't anticipate large-scale, long periods where we're going to be closing down large portions of like intersections during this project, right?
Not for long-term periods, but there will be periods where there will be shutdowns, depending.
Like days versus months?
I think it would be more along the lines of days. And again, as we had discussed before, foot traffic will always be allowed. Notification will be sent out ahead of time so that people will be able to, pedestrians will be able to access businesses. We're going to do everything possible to allow access to businesses within the areas. All the appropriate signage will be in order, and everything will be in line.
Yep. I would agree with that assessment, Pat. Probably more like days. There could be periods where the closure pushes like a week or so, depending on the nature of the work, but nothing that's going to require, months at a time. There's a traffic disruption in one specific area.
Thank you.
I think one thing, I'm not sure if we mentioned it, but I'm pretty sure this is accurate. The sidewalks are, for the most part, being open, right? So even though there might be sections of road that are being closed, so maybe your patrons can't park right on the street right there, they should still be able to walk to your building on the sidewalk. They might just have to park further away.
Yeah, a lot of the sidewalk work will be when we switch all the services over, so that'll be invasive on the sidewalk side. At the beginning of these projects will be the main line work where you're focusing mostly on the pipes within the roadway. And then at the end, when the services get switched over, that's where you see some temporary sidewalk closures and whatnot.
So folks, this microphone might not amplify, but I'm pretty sure that it's so that the people
Testing 1, 2.
Zoom can hear you and
Thank you, FATV, for covering this for future viewing and current viewing.
Just a quick question. Given this is going out possibly 2 to 3 years through paving, is this project fully funded so that there's no interruption for coming up with money to continue the project?
So on the water side, that project has been completely bid out. It's funded, and it's technically under construction right now. Construction started in fall of last year. On the combined sewer separation side, the project that GVC has, which is what's the color? It's the The green area shown on the map up on the screen. That one's been bid out. It's being fully funded through the SRF State Revolving Fund program and supplemented through city wastewater division funds. So that's the revenue generated from ratepayers. So that project's funded. In addition to the CSO 10 project, which is just about done with construction. J. Polito and Sons did that project too. They're just about wrapped up. There's a little bit of paving left. That one's fully funded. The project that's shown in the red right there, it's funded through the SRF program, but we still haven't gone out to bid with that contract yet. So we don't know exactly what the final numbers are going to come in at. We're not entirely sure what percentage is going to be financed through SRF versus city funds. But the intention is to have that funding lined up by the time we're ready to bid that out in July. So we don't anticipate any funding needed to accomplish any of these projects. We've got plans in the works for everything that we're talking about here. So we don't anticipate any sort of delays or issues with being able to pave, do sidewalks, et cetera.
And then to add, MassDOT is responsible for replacing the Water Street and Laurel Street Bridge. They're doing the River Street Bridge. They're also doing the Twin City Rail Trail Bridge that we discussed. And then after the big, Water Street, Laurel Street Bridge, the one that goes over the train tracks and the river, once that's completed, then they'll be doing the upper Water Street Bridge that's up by First Street. They'll be completing that as well. And then when it comes to the Moran Square, we're doing water and sewer work there. And then we also concurrently have a design that funded through the Housing Works grant that is going to be, that we're going to be applying for a MassWorks grant to do further work in that. And that's also with the MVP program and for climate resiliency, for flooding prevention or remediation. That'll be coming when we apply for that. But I'm confident we'll get that funding.
Yeah, and that Moran Square work is going to focus on a lot more than just paving and sidewalk restoration. That's complete intersection redesign, upgraded signals, upgraded lighting. So that the intention is to fund that with the MassWorks grant, like the mayor said. That'll probably be one of the later components of the work, just because it's important to take care of all the underground utility stuff first. That way we're not digging things up twice.
We're moving west to east.
Yep. And then one other thing that we didn't get into a lot of details on, there is some water main work that's part of MassDOT's bridge project. So it's called non-participating work. And essentially, we paid for the design. We gave MassDOT our design. They incorporated it into the bid for their bridge projects. That went out to bid. That contractor is going to handle our water main work, and we're going to pay for it. But the MassDOT's contractor is going to do it for us. So recently, the Water Division went out and secured additional funding to complete that scope of work. We anticipate MassDOT will start that bridge project sometime this year. We're not entirely sure. We just had a pre-construction meeting last week, and we haven't gotten a clear idea on schedule yet. We're trying to set up a meeting with the contractor that MassDOT awarded the contract to get further clarification on timing and scope and all that. So there'll be more notification to come on that as soon as we find out what the actual schedule it is. We'll put that out to the public so everyone's aware of when their contractor will be starting on that work too.
Hi. Christine Tree, business owner and resident business owner at 515 Main Street. So I have some comments and questions. First comment, I'm so glad to hear the rail trail bridge is going in. That's going to be wonderful. And I'm going to be very happy to see that extension and the completion of the project. It's wonderful. Just a great thing for the city. On the shutoffs, so we experienced a shutoff this past year. And our notice was a paper stuck on the outside of the building that we found at 2:30 in the afternoon the day before the shutoff. I'm a law office. It takes a lot to move around our schedule. And if you're going to shut down the water for 4 to 6 hours, that's a complete day's close for me. I cannot ask either clients or employees to come in when I don't have an available working bathroom. And so 48 hours is not a lot, and I understand the weekly notices are coming And I also understand plans change from day to day depending on how the work proceeds. But I would really like to see a commitment to a 7-day notice period, because with that we can plan. The work needs to be done and we want it to happen, but a 7-day notice will accommodate more planning. So I would encourage you to do that rather than the 48 hours, and to make sure when a building is going to be shut off, there's contact by direct contact with someone in the building, not by placing the notice on the outside.
Okay.
You've talked about the parking, and I appreciate that there'll be access to the buildings for pedestrians, but we do serve a lot of elderly and handicapped clients, and those persons are not going to be able to walk to the building. So I would like to see some kind of accommodation for people with disabilities to be able to park closer, even if it means going around where the work is being done. And that assumes that there's going to be work that's going to affect the building for a larger period of time than the one-day shut-off would affect the building. And I think that would, benefit all of our residents to help in that accessibility issue. I'm delighted to hear about the green infrastructure going in. I hope that will replace some of the trees that have been recently cut down in the Main Street area. And I wanted to ask that there be consideration for a plan for maintenance. We had some pots installed on the upper part of Main Street, which was great, and a little bit of landscaping down the bottom. But regular maintenance or sponsorship to help the maintenance would be a wonderful program. I had asked about sponsorship of a pot near my building, and I was told I could not sponsor a pot in front of my building. I don't understand that. It wasn't a question of it cost too much. There was no way that I could sponsor a pot in front of my building. Just doesn't seem in the city's interest. So I'd ask to think about that, because I do think a lot of buildings and the businesses would like to see some improvement by vegetation and would be willing to put either money or time into that.
Definitely reach out to the mayor's office for those
Yeah.
requests, because we can make those happen.
Yeah.
Will we be able to use the number you gave if we have water quality or flow issues after one of the connection changes?
Yes, I would encourage contacting someone at that number or contacting me at my office or the mayor's office. Any sort of issue like that you have either during the construction or after the construction. We want to know about that right away so that we can try to address whatever the issue is. Sometimes it's just as simple as some sediment gets stirred up and it'll clear out by running a faucet. Sometimes there's potentially a leak or other issue going on. So we'd like to know about that type of stuff as quickly as possible, for sure.
And then last comment, I think it's a wonderful opportunity, since we're doing repaving, is to readdress the city's approach to parking downtown, which to me does not make a lot of sense right now, and I think would benefit from an overview of what purposes are we trying to accomplish, including, the concept of why do we have so much pay and ticketing downtown. Ticketing does certainly not benefit any business downtown. All it does is basically impose a tax on people who want to live or work or do business in town. So I'd suggest a readdressing of that.
So I believe on that subject, the Treasurer's Office is working on an overall parking change and plan for the city. I know they formed a parking advisory committee, and we've been holding regular meetings to figure out what the best solution is for the city. So I'm sure there's more to come on that, not directly related to these projects, but definitely within the same geographic area. So definitely an important thing for Main Street.
Okay, thank you for the presentation.
Of course.
Anyone, also residents or business owners, if you have someone with handicap or disability requirements, it would be a case-by-case basis, depending on where they're working and where we could possibly let them park. But that would be a spot where I would say talk to a detail officer or search out the resident engineer from Weston and Sampson. We will try to accommodate those situations as best we can. Obviously, if there's no parking right there because where they're digging, it's an intersection, we might not be able to get them that close. but we've done it in the past. We will do our best for anyone with a disability or has handicap parking issues to try to get them as close to your businesses or their residents that we can. So that would be a spot to reach out to the people on site.
I think we have another
Sorry,
question.
one more thing I did want to add. I specifically remember your situation from like mid-November. So we, kind of following that, had discussed amongst ourselves and the water department, and effectively we changed our workflow and how we were coordinating things. So that specific situation led to us trying to make a change so that we can provide maximum notice as soon as we know when we're realistically going to be coming up on someone. So your situation absolutely occurred. We tried to make a change based on what we learned from that.
So just to confirm what you did, because I had sent out an email saying, why didn't we get further notice? And Commissioner DeWine very nicely at about 6 o'clock sent an email saying that they were not going to shut off and they delayed it a week. By that time, we had rescheduled all of our clients for the day. So what ended up happening is we had 2 days of not being open. Inadvertence, but I appreciate the attempt to resolve this situation.
Hi, I have a question about shutting the water down. Along with domestic water, there are fire sprinkler systems throughout the city. And with having water shut down for 4 hours, 8 hours, whatever it may take, that's also going to shut down the sprinkler systems. Are we going to have to evacuate the buildings while this is going on because now they're not going to be protected? Or do we have to have like a fire watch in the buildings? And then after all of that work is done, how are the sprinkler systems going to be handled about recharging them, cleaning them, making sure that they're going to be working?
Do you want to start? So I'll start with the general shut-off notice. You're correct. It will affect both domestic and fire protection when that's occurring. In general, what's going to be happening is we're going to have a couple meetings with fire department coming up. They've obviously been aware of this project, as the horizon has approached. But now that we're getting to actual, disruption to individual properties, to areas as we lay out the temporary system, we're going to have to coordinate with them very frequently about, be aware that this area has impacted fire flow, or, these are the individual properties or block that we're working on. So if there is any sort of call, concern, that they're automatically aware of, well, I'm not showing up to a normal fire situation. I have to be prepared that something has impeded in normal fire flow operations. So it's not to push the work on them. It's a game of coordination. But that's part of the effort that we're going to be doing, is keeping that constant contact so there's as much awareness that, okay, if we're on this exact block, the 700 block of Main Street, they get a call to that. They have to know, okay, that building is potentially compromised in some way in terms of its normal capacity to deal with a fire. In terms of the overall flushing, effectively those systems will be reconnected. On the domestic, that's a lot easier to take care of. Typically, if you just run the faucet for a little while, you can get any sediment that is stirred up out of it. On the fire service, it may be a little bit of a case-by-case basis, depending on how long it was off. Did we observe anything going on, any reason to believe there's sedimentation? But whereas it's not a potable source in the fire sprinkler, fire suppression system itself, there's probably not going to be a concerted effort to individually flush every single one unless there's reason to believe that needs to be done.
Okay. As far as the fire department being notified, many alarm systems work off of flow switches within the system, so many alarms won't work now.
Yeah.
So
it's
a tough
understood.
situation.
It is.
So I didn't know if we were going to be told that we have to actually leave the buildings when the systems are shut down.
From a water supply standpoint, I'm not sure that I can answer that. That's something we can discuss with fire department specifically and provide a follow-up of how do they want to approach that.
Thank you.
That is a great
You're welcome.
Good morning, Dawn from Popper's Pantry and Finnicky Fork Catering. So water shut off affects I'm super happy this is happening, but it affects my business like dramatically, as I'm sure many other restaurants. and catering. And I personally have events booked into like 2028. Some days I serve 800 people, so I need a guideline. I need to find a temporary kitchen to work out of. So I personally would need as detailed as possible of like when, not like within these couple months, but like dates of when I need to move my operations off of Main Street so that I can fulfill the commitments that I have to clients that I've booked a long time ago. So how detailed of a list do you have at this point, and when can we kind of expect that? Like, I don't know if I need to move out of my kitchen for a month because one day of not having water. I need to figure, I have to recreate my business plan. So I don't know how detailed about when our water is going to be shut
I'll
off.
provide an initial answer.
And are there any certain critical operations that we could perform during like off hours at night or something to accommodate certain businesses like Dawn's that might, be really impacted by these water?
Yeah, so there are. I'm going to speak in generalities. I've actually kind of moved back to this slide with the email, because this is exactly the kind of info we would like to receive via email. Hi, this is my name, this is my contact info, this is my business. These specific days, I have something planned, or what. Those specific requests, we can best respond through that email address. For a general request, effectively what we try to do in these areas, commercial areas with businesses, is we try to schedule it in a way that impacts you least as possible. So like an example, under the Boulder Drive project recently, we redid the service to Espresso Pizza. So they don't open until 11. They do start their kitchen earlier. The contractor started that work at 6:30. We were done by 9. So we were able to basically reconnect their services, change them over without them being able to impact their operations at all. That's just one specific case where all of them are different. But by contacting us, letting the residents, the contractors know, letting that email address know, hey, this is a specific thing that I have a question about, that's how we can try to work with you to limit that impact. So that would be the general response.
Yeah, and just to expand on that a little bit, so the situation where water is being shut down to a specific property generally occurs at one of 2 points, whether it's transferring that service over to the temporary main or transferring it from the temporary main back to the new main that's just been installed. So those are the 2 points at which you'll see discontinuation of service to your building. I think some people get the impression that, while the water main's being worked on in front of their business, they're going to be out of water for like a week, and that's definitely not the case. So I want to reassure you from that standpoint that you're not going to have to find a temporary kitchen for a week. During those service changeovers, that's where you'll see that 4 to 8 hour window of interruption until we come back to change it over to the new main. So I want to reassure you in that sense that you're not going to need to find a new temporary kitchen for an extended period of time. It'll just be for those 1 or 2 days where we're doing that transfer, and we'll certainly try to work to accommodate businesses' schedules. If you start at 9 o'clock in the morning, well, maybe we can do a little night work to get that changeover done before you start, that type of thing. But like Sam said, we definitely need to know the details of who you are, where your business is, what your operation is, what your daily schedule looks like, and the best way to do that is for you to either make a phone call through that phone number or send an email to that email address with all those details, and then we can reach out if we need more clarification, more details, and then we can reach out individually as we move along from the Upper Common through to Morin Square to plan these shutdowns with the individual business owners. So that's, if you could, just take some time to respond to that email with exactly your name, your contact information, like whatever cell phone we can reach you at, and all those details, and we'll happily work that into our schedule with the contractor. Yep.
Other questions?
Mention was made about keeping sidewalks open to the degree you can, pedestrian activity continuing to the as best it can. Is there a protective fence or whatever when trenches are work zones and everything's in tight quarters? how do you all make sure pedestrians aren't, I hate to say falling into some of the work, but I mean, I just don't have a visual of like people actively walking right next to a work zone, but I'm sure you've done it all the time. And could you explain how that works?
Yeah, so again, at a high level, sometimes there will be, sawhorses set up if like work in the street is immediately like adjacent to like the curb line and the sidewalk's open. That's something that can be done. Typically, there's also just a lot of people around. It's not like the sidewalk or the road gets opened up and everyone goes to lunch. Like there's, our inspectors are there, members of the contracting crew are there, and usually there's a lot of people adjacent to the trench that are kind of providing almost that visual barrier of like, oh, there's something going on here. So it's kind of a combination of that, personnel who are on site kind of keeping an eye on things. And then if there's a specific situation that looks like it may call for some, pedestrian protection, either through like a sawhorse or a sign, just putting something up so that it becomes more obviously apparent as you're coming up on it.
Do we have anyone online who has a question? I don't see any raised hands. All right, well, while they're thinking about that, any other questions here? Oh, yep. Wait.
Good morning. My name's Tom Donnelly. I've been involved with city projects since 1975. Just a quick comment on trees. Trees are very nice. When the engineers or planners or designers put a tree up in front of somebody's sign that just spent thousands of dollars, I've seen people cut trees down after they've been put up. On the west end of Main Street, beyond the Rotary, Armored Self-Storage. This is not current events, it's history, but I want everyone here to look at the plans, see the plans, where the trees might be put, where the walkways might be put before it's done. Armored Self-Storage, this was done quite a few years ago, but some of these are life sentences. There's 2 entrances to the building. They planted 2 trees in front of both entry doors with curbings, and it was a storage area, so people have to walk through everything. This past summer, they put in this green space, a water collection, one in front of the Armored Self-Storage, and another one in front of the building that my wife's family's had since 1970. I never was invited to a meeting. I never saw a meeting. There are 7 apartments there. They put one of these water storage collection places in there that seems very useless. 7 units, 2 people in wheelchairs. They get, some of them are very poor, they get dropped off every day. They can't park in front of the building anymore. There's 6 rubbish barrels and 6 recycle barrels that have to be put out. Now they're in the middle of the road. There was no consideration, no communication, no nothing. I'm just advising people to really look at what's happening there. And before, I worked 2 years with the construction company and the disruptions, and the construction company did a wonderful job the whole time. When they marked out this green space or water collection area in front of the building, I said, "What's that?" They told me what it was. They had already moved the hydrant the year before. I didn't know why they moved the hydrant. Well, I finally got the plan. At that point, I talked to the construction owner. I went to planning. I talked to the engineering department, and I talked to the mayor and asked if anything could be done. The engineer said, "That's the plan." So some of these things are life sentences. Thousands of dollars were done to do this, and it's useless. If you go there right now, there's piles of snow. There's across the street, the tree's still in front of the entry, and I'm really upset about that. In this room, there's a few people, when you talk about Moran Square improvements, there are a few people in the room that went to the meeting. they're going to reduce the traffic lanes from 4 to 3. People are going to be coming down from Summer Street, taking a wide right turn around the statue. And I know they use some, I will call them misleading facts. They talked about how many accidents and how dangerous it is in pedestrian situations down there. Well, they admitted that there's low light. It's not the people driving the cars. The light is low. The people across down there cross in dark clothes at night. So the statistics that they used to justify some of the work that they're doing down there, I think is distorted. I asked the question, is this to move traffic or is this for pedestrians? They said it's safer. I said, I didn't ask that question. Is this for moving traffic or is it for pedestrians? And the same answer, it's safer. I hope some people look at that design down there. I mean, I've been crossing that place since the 50s. And will it be safer? There aren't that many pedestrians down there. But you look at the traffic, and the traffic's only getting more. As Fitchburg grows and the area grows, there's going to be more traffic. But to try to make it safer, I don't, safer for who? Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback. I think there was another hand raised here.
Hi, I just have a couple quick questions. You guys talk about shutting water off. So can you, I own a property on the corner of Main and Putnam Street. My property got damaged 3 different times with the construction going on in that area. I want to make sure that there's safeguards that are put into place if you guys put silt bags back in the drains, that they maintain them, and that you also control your work sites. And then the other thing is, you've talked about turning the water off. When turning it on, you have to notify the property owners, because I have a 54,000 square foot property. When you kill all the water and start adding water back to the building, the air pressure has to come out somewhere. And I got damaged because of that. Towards the end of the construction, I was dealing with a couple people from Weston and Sampson who were notifying me. So you guys have to have some kind of text messages, calling or something saying, we're turning this on, because you guys, it wreaked havoc on toilets, sinks, everything. So can you guys put something like that in place?
Yeah, I think that's something that can be done. I mean, again, hopefully what we're going to develop through this list is contact info. So as we contact people either, in person through this, develop that list of contacts. That's an easy enough message of, hey, water's going off this day, water's going back on approximately at this time. A lot of these connections occur same day. What you're probably referring to is more transfer from the public or from the temporary system back onto the permanent, and that's a good point.
We'll also work with water mains. A couple times, some of the temporary main broke, so they had to kill the water.
And
I only got notified because the fire department was there 5 different times in 2 days for pressure, and then the bowling alley called me because his toilets were running. I had another tenant call me telling me the toilet was overflowing, and then we had water lines break because of the pressure. So that's very key to big properties.
Agreed, and it's an extremely valid point, and we're going to do what we can with it. Temporary systems can fail. That is something that does happen. It's unforeseen when it does, and typically what happens is when that happens, to maintain as much pressure and as much capability of service to everyone on the temporary system, it does get shut down immediately, and we're aware that there is a major inconvenience when that happens.
Well, even if we know it, shut off the main. That's what we did towards the end. When you guys were killing the water, we just shut up the mains, all the water stays in the building, we don't have a problem.
Agreed.
So as long as you guys communicate, I think that'll help everybody downtown, because a lot of people, didn't experience what I did because I was right at the construction site. So other people are probably going to run into those problems. So if you could tell them ahead of time to avoid these situations, I think it would help everybody all around. You won't be getting calls, complaining, and telling you, hey, what are you doing on my property?
We can certainly do that. And one of the other things that we learned from your specific case is that along Main Street, a lot of the buildings actually have basements that extend out underneath the sidewalks. And that's the issue that we ran into on Putnam Street. We excavated to install a water main, and we were looking down into this gentleman's basement. So If you're aware that your building extends under the Main Street sidewalk, that is something we'd absolutely love to hear about, because we don't have records that show that everywhere in the city. We have the records that we have in some areas that we know about, have basements that extend under the sidewalk, but we don't know about all of them. And if you have that specific knowledge, we would love to hear that so that we can plan for that. There are steps we can take to avoid that situation from happening again. So if you're aware of it, let us know for sure.
When we do the switchovers to the temporary and then back to the permanent, are there like unexpected risks that there could be some failed connections? And how do we handle that if that's the case? I'm not sure if there could be breakages, I suppose, or maybe the connection doesn't fit. I'm not an engineer, I don't know these things, so.
I mean, a lot of times when we're operating older valves within the distribution system, the valves will fail.
Yeah.
And sometimes that causes issues when we're doing shutdowns or changeovers. Theoretically, everything that we're installing should be new and work, but there's always the off chance that something does fail when it's put into service. Likewise with the temporary water main system, there's stuff that is subject to failure. The stuff's above grade. It's got traffic driving around and next to it. That can cause issues sometimes. So we do everything in our power to try and mitigate any potential failures, but it does happen once in a while. Sam, I don't know if you want to add to that a little bit.
I think Nick's answer is as good as can be provided. There's no reason to believe that anything fails. All the new infrastructure gets pressure tested before it gets put into service, so you have an expectation, that it can already hold that pressure. What the point of failure in that case is always going to come with the actual last connection itself, making up the last couple feet between what's been, fully pressure tested and passed in that existing connection itself. So that work is done, it's always kind of highly critical work. It's always done with a ton of care. But there is a chance, bolt or gasket or something. But there is no unique reason to believe that's happening either.
Thank you.
And Sam, can you speak to the concerns that this gentleman raised over on Putnam Street with, water running, toilets overflowing, anything like that? What would cause that situation to happen?
Without knowing, I guess, more specifically about what's causing that, I don't want to mislead people, I guess, on an answer. Just a bit.
Turning it back on, trying to regulate, and that's the other thing too, is they got to turn it up slow, especially sprinklers. I had to have people on hand when they were turning it back on, so we don't have other damage.
Yeah, you are. So likely that occurred with loss of pressure in the temporary system and repressurization of that. So again, hopefully something that is not experienced on a regular interval.
From when you build it. It only takes a pencil tips to block something.
Yep.
So there was multiple reasons. I have almost tons of different things for that.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions? All right, any parting thoughts?
If you could have folks that may not have signed the sign-up sheet because they kind of snaked around the room, be sure to do so before you leave. Also, since the coffee arrived kind of late, for those that want to go up before you head out, it's over here. Also some pastry as well.
Thank you, everybody, for attending today. We really strongly encourage you to make sure that you are connected to us through this email or the link coming soon so that we can stay in communication with you. But please, anytime you have any questions, definitely email or call. It's easier to communicate and resolve an issue in advance, if possible, or immediately after than to let it fester.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.